We start the movie on a wild and winding road with Joey, who is on her way to her brother's rafting rental camp. She receives a call from her passionate lover James, who asks about her ongoing adventure. James talks about their plans for the future, hinting at the possibility of them exploring homes together after her trip. But Joey's behavior betrays a lack of enthusiasm for the conversation with her boyfriend. Sometime later, Joey finally arrives at the camp, where she warmly embraces a burly man named Gray, who we soon learn is her brother. Gray introduces her to two of his clients, the lively Carissa and the friendly Van, before diving into his business. He excitedly shares plans for an upcoming rafting trip and surprises Joey by revealing that their childhood friend, Trevor, has decided to join them despite it being his day off. Joey is surprised by this, and her reaction is not one of pure joy. Moments later, Trevor appears next to Joey, sharing his excitement about joining the adventure as soon as he learned of her participation. We find out that he was recently released from a 3-year prison sentence, and Gray gave him a chance to turn his life around by offering him a place in his rafting business. Joey's career choice as a doctor is revealed, and her unease is palpable as she talks with Trevor, but she pretends that everything is fine. Shortly after, the group gathers, preparing for their rafting adventure, while Gray provides instructions on paddling techniques. Joey seems disturbed by something, but gradually adapts to the group's good vibes. Moments later, Gray informs them that they should prepare because they are about to face their first rapids. After navigating through the rapids, the group finally takes a break in an idyllic location before venturing into the woods under Gray's guidance to set up camp. As they finish setting up the tents, Carissa humorously asks about the bathrooms, leading Gray to suggest finding a suitable tree while handing her bear spray for safety. As night falls, they gather around a crackling campfire, sharing drinks and stories. Joey's discomfort grows as the group pressures her for details about her boyfriend, so she reluctantly reveals that they met while working, both as doctors. The girl's comments imply that he is a handsome doctor, which generates jealousy in Trevor, as he seems to have been interested in Joey from the start. As the night progresses, Joey, who is tired, excuses herself to enter her tent. Later, Van announces her intention to make friends with a tree and steps away to relieve herself. Just then, Trevor, feeling the effects of alcohol, claims he will do the same and heads into the darkness. Meanwhile, in her own tent, Joey checks her phone, contemplating a message from her boyfriend, to which she responds affirmatively, but the poor network leaves her message undelivered. But as Joey begins to drift off to sleep, everyone hears Trevor's screams for help, and the rest of the group rushes to the scene. In the darkness, they find Van on the ground with a severe head injury, and Joey quickly instructs her to lie down on the ground. Here, Trevor insists repeatedly that Van slipped and hit her head on a rock. Gray tells Trevor to get his first aid kit and the satellite phone, and Joey tells Gray to grab some large branches to support Van's neck. It is then that Van reveals a disturbing truth. Trevor had tried to assault her, leaving Joey momentarily stunned. When Trevor reappears, Joey helps to stem the bleeding, and then Trevor mentions that the satellite phones are dead. Upon hearing this, Gray points out that the nearest help is a ranger station, but it will take 2 hours of fast rowing to get there because there is no road. As Van's condition is critical due to a skull fracture, Gray instructs the others to pack their things, much to Trevor's discontent, since they have to raft in the dark, but Gray insists that they have no other choice. The group quickly packs their belongings and embarks on their boat. Gray then reprimands Trevor for not having charged the phones as instructed, leading to a heated exchange between the two. Van finds comfort in her friend Carissa as she reminds Carissa how she has always been there for her in times of illness and trouble. After being on the water for a while, Van begins to have seizures, and Joey manages to stabilize her on the raft, but time is running out. With less than an hour until they reach their destination, Gray tells them to prepare for turbulent waters. As the group approaches a rough section of the river, Gray instructs the others to make a sharp turn to the left and then to the right. Everyone manages to pass through the strong rapids following Gray's instructions, but at some point everyone does as they were told except Trevor, who seems uninformed. As a result, the whole team finds themselves trapped in the turbulent current and their boat capsizes, forcing them to cling to something to survive. Joey manages to hold onto a rock for safety, calling out for the others. Meanwhile, Gray swims to where Van lies unconscious, grabs onto another rock, and gets out of the river. He then brings Van to Joey, who begins performing CPR to revive her. Gray goes looking for Carissa and finds Trevor alone before hearing Carissa scream for help. Acting quickly, Gray grabs Trevor from behind, and Trevor tells Carissa to take his hand, despite her reluctance to do so upon seeing Trevor's face. After the two men help Carissa, Joey speaks privately with Gray about what really happened between Van and Trevor, expressing her belief that Trevor deliberately paddled slowly to cause the boat to capsize. Gray, however, dismisses her suspicions, insisting that Trevor couldn't have done something so evil. As soon as Trevor arrives, the brothers pretend that nothing is wrong. The next morning, the group resumes their journey, and we can see Trevor's nervousness as they approach the ranger station. As soon as they reach dry land, the girls wait on the riverbank for Trevor and Gray, who are going to get help at the ranger station. However, Trevor stops Gray along the way. He is terrified and tells Gray that it wasn't him and that it was all an accident. We also find out that Trevor is a parolee and didn't want another incident on his record. He asks Gray to back him up since it was for him that he went to prison in the first place, and Gray assures him that he will support him. As soon as they arrive at the ranger station, Gray becomes anxious when it seems that no one is there. Soon, a vehicle arrives. It is the ranger, and Gray explains that a girl slipped and suffered a head injury and needs a helicopter. The ranger goes inside to make the call, but Trevor abruptly takes the phone from him, preventing him from calling for help. The ranger looks at Trevor suspiciously and tries to retrieve the phone, leading to a physical struggle. He then pulls out a gun, and Trevor initially surrenders, but then lunges to grab the weapon, and a violent fight ensues. Things get even worse when Trevor stabs the ranger with his knife and even claims that the ranger was trying to kill him. Gray tries to apply pressure to the ranger's wound to save him, but Trevor insists that it is futile. Gray then argues that if the ranger survives, they will be able to get a helicopter to rescue Van, and Trevor won't be a murderer. But while he desperately tries to revive the ranger, Trevor destroys the phone and forces Gray to reaffirm his alliance. With great effort, they carry the ranger to his car and push him over a cliff. The car explodes moments later, providing them cover for their actions. Later, Trevor and Gray return to the girls, who anxiously ask about the helicopter on the way. Carissa steps back in fear upon seeing a gun in Trevor's hands, while Gray informs them that they will change their plans and head toward the Canadian patrol. Joey then questions them about the ranger, and Trevor simply states that he is dead. Joey also explains that Van will die if they return to the water, but Trevor remains resolute in his decision. Later, they continue paddling, and tragically, Van succumbs to her injuries in the middle of the river. After a while, Gray begs Trevor to allow them to take a break, as both women are exhausted and unable to paddle any longer. In a crucial moment, a passing hiker spots the group and offers to fetch help, asking if they need a helicopter. Trevor, however, reassures the hiker, emphasizing Joey's medical experience and that Van just had a fall. The hiker engages in casual conversation for a while and offers his assistance, but Trevor declines, so the hiker eventually walks away. As he walks away, Trevor suggests to Gray that they should shoot the hiker to prevent him from seeking help or alerting the authorities, but Gray manages to dissuade Trevor from this idea. Gray declares that they should take a break after paddling for some time, and that Van's burial is of utmost importance. As they reach dry land again, they proceed to bury Van, and Carissa cries the whole time because her plan was to go rafting. As they venture deeper into the woods to set up camp, Trevor decides to confess to Joey and Carissa, revealing that Gray is not the saint he claims to be. Trevor tells a dark secret. Gray was running a successful drug business, but was arrested for a minor crime. To save Gray, Trevor took the blame and went to prison. The money Gray was making was huge, and he was like a brother to Trevor. Moreover, Trevor had no family except Gray and Joey. Later that night, Trevor ties up Carissa, Gray, and Joey and shows unexpected concern, asking Joey if the ropes are too tight. Joey stays silent while Trevor covers her with a blanket before falling asleep. When Joey asks Gray about his business, Gray says he wasn't thinking straight. He used to drink too much and did a lot of bad things, and he really feels bad about it and doesn't approve of what Trevor is doing now. Joey then tells him how he let Trevor molest her when she was 15, which shocks him because he thought they were together, and he promises her that this time he will help. This revelation explains Joey's discomfort around men, including her boyfriend, with whom she reluctantly spoke on the phone. Moments later, the hiker from before, who always suspected Trevor, reappears. He first tries to grab Trevor's gun from his hand, which seems to be in a deep sleep, but Trevor's grip is strong, so the hiker opts to free the hostages. He proceeds to untie Joey and explains that he felt something was wrong, which led him to follow them. But just then, Trevor wakes up and shoots the hiker without hesitation. He starts screaming violently, thinking it was all Joey's plan. When he is about to shoot her, Gray stops him, explaining that Joey is needed to row the canoe. The next morning, Trevor orders them to bury the hiker, while Carissa secretly hides the hiker's knife she finds in his pocket. After that, they go back to the boat and continue paddling, following Trevor's instructions. Joey and Carissa remain tied up with strong ropes, and Gray pleads with Trevor to free them, emphasizing the need for at least 4 people to navigate a rapid. Trevor, however, fully trusts Gray's skills as a river guide and refuses to free them. But unbeknownst to Trevor, Carissa manages to sneak the hiker's knife and uses it to puncture the boat's. Sometime later, Trevor realizes that the boat is filling with water and accuses Carissa of sabotaging him, but she vehemently denies it. Forced to make a stop, Trevor asks Gray to help him fix the boat. But to everyone's surprise, Gray attacks Trevor and tries to grab the gun. The two engage in a struggle for the weapon, while Carissa struggles to untie Joey. Joey reciprocates and instructs Carissa to run without looking back. The girls enter the forest while Gray buys time by fighting, but he is shot shortly after. While being chased by Trevor, a terrified Joey runs in the opposite direction, hoping to divert his attention away from Carissa. Trevor decides to chase after Joey, but she eventually jumps off a cliff, knowing that Trevor is afraid of heights and won't follow him. As Trevor misses his shot, Joey swims toward her brother, begging him to fight for his life. She helps him get back to the boat so they can escape, while Trevor runs back to Gray in an attempt to catch them. Fortunately, Trevor arrives a little late, and the siblings manage to flee the scene. Trevor then comes face to face with 2 kayaks and asks them to die for him, before taking their kayak to pursue the siblings. At the same time, Joey prepares as Gray informs her that there is a waterfall ahead in their path. Shortly after, Trevor manages to catch up to them, and they are at the edge of the biggest waterfall, where Joey is not qualified to go rafting. Unfortunately, as they approach the edge of the fall, Gray falls from the boat, and Joey struggles to pull him back. Unfortunately, they are swept away by the river currents, and the boat capsizes once again. Joey manages to swim to safety, but her injured brother is dragged almost to the edge of the biggest waterfall. However, he manages to cling to a nearby rock before being pulled out of the water by his sister. Joey then struggles to keep her brother awake, but things worsen when Trevor catches up with her and stabs her from behind. He taunts her and makes a cruel comment about her finally fighting back. With no options available, Gray decides to sacrifice his life, holding Trevor from behind and jumping off the cliff to their deaths and Trevor's. Joey sees all this in pain and lies on the rock, feeling too weak to move due to the knife wound. Just then, she hears the sound of a helicopter, and we soon discover that Carissa was rescued in the forest and told authorities about Joey and Gray. The helicopter hovers for a time as they look for Joey and her brother. It is at this point that Joey finally gathers the energy to stand up and waves frantically as the helicopter flies overhead. Fortunately for Joey, Carissa recognizes her silhouette and tells the rescue team to descend. The film ends as Joey cries tears of relief while lying in a bed, receiving medical attention in the helicopter.